Hey, fellowship fam, my name is Braille Watson, and I'm standing up today because we are on the move. I'm so excited to be getting into our new midweek content, Church Forsaken, where we're going to be going through the curriculum Walking Towards Love, which is a curriculum based on the book Church Forsaken by Jonathan Brooks. This content is designed to help us as a church to look at what it means biblically about justice and about community engagement. And I'm so excited. Hey, if you haven't had a chance to get that curriculum, you can head over to walkingtowardslove.com and download that for free. Just like these videos, it's all free. So I'm super excited. We have members of our worship team who have volunteered to bring us some music ahead of time as we get ready to head into these videos. So we'll have a little bit of worship and then we'll be able to get into these videos from Church Forsaken. And I'm telling you, they are really engaging. I've really enjoyed this content. So I'm praying for you and I'm praying for our community. I'm excited to see what God does with our community as we dig into Church Forsaken.
Then you came along. thinking about, so when we would play it or like tag out here, the lady who had the house on the other side, right? She was the only person on the block that had like a chain around her grass. Yeah. And if you stepped on her grass, she was out there dog in a second. Yeah, I know. Get off my grass!
Pumpkin companies live here.
Yep, right here. They were the first ones to move off the block.
Were they?
Yep.
Yeah, right, because I was still on the block when they moved out.
Yep.
And I was next to them and the Jehovah's Witnesses.
It's crazy because as we stand here, it's almost like looking into the abyss of what happens when we continue to leave our neighborhoods. Right? I'm not gonna say we, I'll talk about me, right? I know that my thought process was I'm getting the heck out of here by any means necessary as soon as I can, first thing smoking. And although I didn't make the choice to come back, I did get it once I was here that the reason why God was bringing me back here is because he was trying to help me understand what the first practice of the book in Church for Satan is talking about, is that we have to reside where we don't want to be. And not because God's like trying to punish us or because we're some superheroes that's gonna save the world. No, but because if God has called us to a place, then that's the place where we're supposed to live out, even if it's not the place we would have chosen.
And that's difficult to do. Once you're in that place and you realize why you're in the place, then you become to come around to start loving it.
Yes.
And that's where I am now. I came back to Englewood.
Yes.
This is the first Englewood experience, right over there across the street. And maybe 13, 14 years later, I came back to the wood, where I am now.
Yeah.
And I'm loving it. It's not like how the media has it portrayed.
Yes. Yes.
It's on a slow comeback.
Yes.
It's on a slow comeback.
Because there are people coming back.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the key though, right? You know, like my hope is as people are challenged by these words of actually maybe listening to God versus listening to themselves or what the world's trying to tell them, that we will see the opposite of what we see. What this is a product of what I call a leadership vacuum. Every leader in our community leaves, leaving no one to inhabit these places that used to be such vital places in our community. And then we come back and say, what's wrong? What's wrong? Why the place? Where do we go? So yes, it's neglected. The city has left it to die, but so do we. So my challenge to all of us is that, you know, I don't know if their place look like this. I don't know if this is what their neglected neighborhood looks like, but you need to seek God clearly and ask if, like Israel, you are trying to flee the only place that's actually gonna make you who God wants you to be.
2 Sundays ago, there was a dude that literally, I don't know what was his issue, but he basically just went on a shooting spree in a park that I go to all the time and take my kids there. And so a guy just basically shoots up folks there. And so I'm literally, both me and my wife, we're at a place where we're mentally stressed about how, like, we're trying to figure out, my wife's from Philly, so we're like trying to figure out, should we take our kids out? Should we take them to different schools? It's like I forgot basically what God had called me to at that moment. And so I'm literally stressed out because I'm like, my daughters, like things that would have never bothered me if I was there by myself. Even like,
that's real.
Right. It's like all of a sudden, like even thinking about like, I could visualize, here's areas where I found myself on the ground with my hands behind my back. That it's like, it wouldn't have bothered me, maybe because I was used to it, but now I have family members and I'm here and I'm like, okay, I want my children to be in a safe space, but there's other people's children here too.
That's it.
And so it's just like, they're also just as much a part of this community, and they also want safe spaces as well, just like I want for my children. And so it took a second for me to just, like, for God to finally be like, nah, man, this is where you are. Like, you need to be here. But there's a moment where I was just like my children literally introduced a level of fear that I've never experienced before in my life. Just thinking about they could get shot. Like, not even by the people, by the cops. Like, I'm like, it's like it took folks God putting folks in my life that helped snap me back and help me see the power of God and see that what God was doing, and that I was here for more than just the level of comfortability for my family. But it's like, no, you're here on a mission. You're here to do something. So while my mind was not there, I was there physically, my mind wasn't there, but God helped me to bring me back spiritually of like, no, this is where I called you. Like, you're going to be here. You're here, buddy. You know what I'm saying? So let's go ahead, saddle up, let's get it. You know, so
You said
like,
some good stuff, man. Like 2-3 things there, man. I'm like, yeah, I love these spaces. Like, when you talk about the idea of the fear introduced when family comes, right? And like having children and being married and trying to figure all that. This is why I use the language of process, right? Because you never really get it. Things will continue to change. First, you'll have a baby, and you're worried about your baby. Then you have a kid that's going to school. Now you're worried about schools. Then you got a teenager. Now you're worried about them going out and being like it. The process continues to get more nerve-wracking as they grow older. Then will they be upset at me when they're adults for making them live through this when this wasn't they call? Like it's a process that you're going to be working through the entire time. But what I want you to remember is one of the things that you said, and I talk about this often, is the difference between a safe space and a safe place. And I say that in all actuality, like, we are good at creating safe spaces. We want our house to be a safe space. We want our churches to be a safe space. We want our parks to be a safe space. A place where I can take my kids to this space and everything's good. I know this one's good. What we are striving to be, though, are creators of safe places. Because safe place takes into account that other people have kids here too. And if I create a safe space for my kids, I know they're good. And the kids that come to the youth center, or the kids that come to the church, like, they're safe. But I can't control what happens to those other kids because I can only control this space. But if I begin to work with community organizations, with those park district owners, with politicians, with community organizations, with neighbors, to create a safe place, not only are my kids safe, but now we're creating a space for all the kids. And so once again, it doesn't go in reverse. You can create a safe space and never create a safe place. But you can't create a safe place without creating a safe space. Right? And so that's why the outward in actually becomes the key, right, to kingdom living. It's, if you think about everybody, that includes you if you're part of the community.
It's we thinking instead of I thinking.
That's it. When you change all those personal pronouns, it changes everything, including the process. Because you're not the first one to have a teenager. You're not the first person to have a baby. You're not the first person to have a grown kid, right? Everybody in the community, there's a mother who's done that already. And now you're in community and she can talk you through and say, well, my baby had trouble too. Let me tell you how it went down. But when we think we have it, or I know what I'm doing, or I got to talk to God and figure this out, it's like, why are you all by yourself?
My mama said you're going to go to college, you're going to make a lot of money, and you're going to move me out too. When life led me back to moving in with my family, all that, it just didn't make sense to her, to my family, to anybody. We have forsaken this notion of residing where we don't want to be. So I'll give you an example. Remember early on in the passage, it says that the Lord God says, I have sent you into exile, right? When we read it from Israel in Jerusalem's perspective, we tell the story of Israel was snatched out of Jerusalem and driven into Babylon because of the way they forsook God and were only about themselves, right? Like, that's the way I've always heard it talked about. And I'm not saying that's not correct. I'm just saying it's only one perspective. What about the children who weren't a part of, like, they didn't know their parents were doing the opposite of what, but they also were taken into exile. Babylon is all they know. And so when I juxtaposed this with my own life, I actually felt closer to the child who only knew exile. Like, my mama remembers Englewood when it was at its prime. Englewood at one point was the second largest commercial district in Chicago to the Magnificent Mile, where you see all of the top line stores. She always remembers what it was. And I'm like, this is just what it is. Based off of her stories and the stories of the news and the stories of other adults in the community and the stories of people that live outside of my neighborhood, I had the mind that, oh, Jerusalem got to be better than this. Like, Babylon is horrible, right? This is terrible. Like, this is all I know, but this is bad. And if God sent me here, what did I ever do to God? So I had to make a decision to maintain that position because everything I knew told me no. There's an easier way, like, I don't really have to do it this way. I don't have to align myself this close to that or them. There's got to be another way. And God's going, no. Don't forsake the position that I'm putting you in. A position that some people won't understand, but you are called to. That literally I was sent to be there. And watch this, like other translations actually said, I carried you into exile. Like I placed you there. I picked you up and dropped you in exile. You know, it's like, oh God, really God? I love you. Here's exile. You know? And if God carried us there and you have this attitude about exile as a place to escape, never a place to invest, never a place to reside, never a place to dwell or grow, then this can be really damaging to your psyche. Because not only does it breed disdain and hatred for your neighborhood, it breeds a disdain and hatred for anyone in that neighborhood.